Hi, and welcome back to Peter the Rev Show. And I want to thank everybody for joining in today. And I really appreciate, again, all of your feedback. And I thank you for my peeps out west. I thank you very much that you joined in, and I really appreciate your comments. But today I want to talk about why we do the things in our marriages, why we react to our spouses the way we do at times. A lot of the times, we do not know why we're doing it, but we do it, and we need to find out why. I believe that a lot of how we react to our spouses or anyone else is how we were raised or what we have seen growing up in our homes. If we were brought up in a caring and loving home, we have the tendency to be that way with our spouses. We seem to be very patient, and we have the ability to let things ride. If we were brought up in a dysfunctional home, that is a whole different set of rules altogether. The problem is that we don't realize that it's dysfunctional, because that's the way we've grown up, and that's what we think is the right way to do it. But when we realize it, we need to be willing to change, and not for the sake of our spouses or anybody else, but for the sake of becoming a better person for us. So that you can become a better husband or a better wife. I believe that how we watch our parents deal with problems in their marriage, that we will end up doing the same thing in ours. And a lot of times people, again, comes back to, why are you like your dad? Or why did you react like your dad? Or why are you like your mom? Or you're just like your mom. So really, in all honesty, you need to ask yourself some questions, and we need to be honest with ourselves on exactly how we feel about things. So what I'd like to do today is I want to ask a couple of questions. So number one is, ask yourself, when we have problems, do we act like our mother and father? Husbands, do you treat your wives like your father treated your mom, especially when you're having disagreements? Wives, do you react to your husbands the same way that your moms did to your dads? These are things that you need to look at on a regular basis and just see that. Because if it's the case, then you know what, there's some things that you might need to deal with. Do you have an anger problem, men or ladies? Do you yell at each other to be the loudest person in the room? Or if you think that you yell the loudest, that you are the one that's going to win the argument, or that if you cry, or that if you scream, that the argument is won. You need to look at those, and you need to see if one of your parents were that way. Do you throw things? How many telephones have been broken? How many windows have been broken? How many plates have been broken? Or dents in the walls or things like that. You need to see, and you need to look back at basically, how did your parents deal with things like that? Do you hit one another? Gentlemen, not a good thing. Ladies, still not a good thing. You don't need to be hitting each other. You're not children, okay? You're adults, and you need to be acting like adults and dealing with things in an adult manner, okay? Do you call each other names? I think a lot of times when people get into disagreements and arguments, and the anger and the frustration is built up so bad that you end up calling each other names that you really can't reverse that. But you know what? You need to make it a habit of not to call people names when you get into a disagreement. I know that it's hard, but you know what? You have to understand that these are hurtful. And when people get angry, they just want to hurt each other. But you don't want to be in that position all the time. Even if you have a disagreement, when my wife and I have disagreements, we don't purposely try to hurt each other. We purposely try to agree to disagree, but we also try to be able to understand and hear each other's thoughts and our feelings so that we can understand each other a lot better. Another thing that people used to do all the time and still do, they say the divorce word. You know what? If you say divorce long enough, it will happen. If you say hate long enough, it will happen. If you say I don't love you enough, it will happen. And people have the tendency of talking themselves into whatever they want to talk themselves into. So you need to, again, double check what you're saying before you speak. Gentlemen, ladies, count to 10. Put your brain in gear, okay, before you say anything, okay? Don't walk around with your brain in neutral and start spewing off. It's not really a good thing to be. Do you stop talking to each other? Do you go for days without talking to each other? Do you keep the anger and the frustration and the bitterness, do you keep it going on for days and days and days? There was a time that I was like that, and you know what? It really hurt my wife. It hurt her deeply. And now, I come as quickly as I possibly can. and I want us to be able to deal with our issues so that, you know what, we can enjoy the rest of our day or the rest of our week or a holiday or whatever it is we're doing. I don't want to have any more downtime, if you want. I want to be able to deal with the issues as quickly as possible, as soon as possible, and as less hurtful as possible as we can, so that we can go on loving each other and having a great time with each other the way God intended it to be. Do you leave? Do you leave the house? Do you leave the room? Do you leave and never talk about this problem or any other problem again? Do these problems build up so that every time that you do have an argument, all of these problems from the past are right back into the present, and they will continue to be into the future until you deal with them and you learn to talk about them? There were 10 questions right there that I gave you. If these questions are the way that you handle some of your disagreements, then somebody is getting hurt and never being allowed to have their voice heard. And you're really not communicating in your marriage, and you're not communicating with each other about how you feel or about what's going on in your life. You're just two people living in the same house and not being able to get along. Okay? The other thing that you're doing with that is all you're doing is bringing on a bad generational curse that is coming down your family line, and you are not dealing with the issues in your life. And people, you know, everybody has issues. Everybody has something that bothers them. And you know what? If you don't talk about it, or if you don't discuss it with someone, or if you're not honest with your spouse, these problems will keep coming and coming and coming, and they will not stop. And this is something that I really, I try to employ this onto people because I just think it's very important. And it's like anything else. If you have a sore and you keep picking it, it will never heal. And that's just really the way that it is. And it's the same thing in your marriage. And if you have issues in your marriage or things from your past, then these aren't going to heal. And you need to deal with them so that you can get them healed. And you know what? You want to stop going around the same mountain on the same wrong track. So really, this is the only time that I will ever say this about you dealing. This is about you. This is about yourself. And this is all this is that you be selfish and get yourself on the right track. Because how can you help someone else, or how can you be loving to somebody else if you don't love yourself and you can't help yourself? You need to be honest with yourself and do the right thing. Do you want to be part of destroying your children's lives? Do you want to be divorced? Do you want to be alone? Do you want to be one of the statistics that says, I am from a divorced family? Do you really want to be a blended family? Do you really want your children living with somebody else? Do you want your children having to be in a home with somebody else? These are things that you need to talk about before you want to go on about talking about divorce or being separated or so forth. Okay? Do you want to keep feeling the way that you are feeling right now? Because this is really what it's all about. These feelings that you feel right now towards your spouse, is this the way you want to be, or do you want to change it? And if these questions and the things that have come up right now that we've talked about today, okay, you need to think about what is going on in your life and your marriage, and you purposely want to make changes in your life, in you personally, okay, and in your home. And only you can make it happen. Yes, I know that it takes two, but you know what? It has to start with the one before you can happen to make it to work together. So really, just so that you know, I am Peter the Rev. I am raw, and I am real. But remember, I love you, but God loves you a lot more. God bless.